going to be showing you guys how to make this wrap jumpsuit. It's very easy to make. So this is the pattern paper that I'm going to be using. I can cut it directly on the fabric, but I just want to explain it better, so I'm going to cut it on the pattern paper first. So how you're going to do it is cut out your pattern paper how you normally cut out your fabric, right? So I have two pieces here for my back, and my back has about 1.5 inches in between here for my zip allowance, because there's going to be a zip at the back of this jumpsuit. So, and then this is my front panel, which is folded into two. It's folded into two this way. So, and then the width of this here is just basically my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1. So my bust measurement is 42 divided by 4 is going to be 10.5. Then plus extra 1, so I have 11.5 here. Go ahead and draw out our basic bodice. So guys, the first thing we are going to do is just to go ahead, divide your shoulder measurement into 2. My shoulder is 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. I'm going to go ahead, mark that here. I'm going to also go ahead, draw in my armhole, which is 20 divided by 2, and then I'm going to just mark 10 inches all the way down here. So that's somewhere here. I'm going to connect it this way. So guys, after that, the next thing is to mark my neckline, just like how you mark your normal bodies. I marked 3 inches here, and then I came down here by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, connected it like this. And then the next thing you're going to do now is to go ahead and insert your waist measurement. So my waist measurement is 34 divided by 4 is going to be about 8.5. plus extra 1 inch, extra 2 inches, 1 inch of darting and 1 inch of seam allowance. That's going to be about 10.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 10.5 here. So from here, I'm going to connect these two lines together. What I'm going to do now is to draw in my spaghetti sleeve. So what you're going to do now is to mark, check the distance of your armhole, the sleeve remaining. So you're going to measure this shoulder slope from this point of your neckline to this point. Measure it and find halfway through. So mine is 5. Half of it is going to be 2.5, which is here. So on this 2.5 line, you're going to draw a line coming down straight, right? You're going to draw a line coming down straight. This is how you draw a spaghetti sleeve. But this line that you drew coming down straight, if you look at the picture at the moment, you will see that her own is not that low. Her own came down like 4 inches, right? Normally, some people bring theirs down up to like, let's say 7 inches. But as you can see, her own is just almost up to her shoulder too. So the next thing you're going to do now is you're going to come down to this side of your bust and come down like half an inch on this your bust side, and then you're going to use your curve ruler and you're going to connect this point to this point here. And then guys, the next thing you're also going to do is to go ahead, this front line now, you're also going to go ahead and check the depth of the neckline that you want. As you can see, with her own is not showing a lot of cleavage, so I'm just going to come down by, like, let's say 7 inches down here, and then I'm going to mark that, or 7.5, anywhere you want. I'm going to mark that, and then I'm also going to connect it this way. So you're going to blend this one also to this point here. So now, after that, the next thing So guys, the next thing I did is to cut off that waist pattern, and then I also drew in my dart. So my dart is just 1 inch before my bust line, and my bust line is on this, my chest line. So I stopped 1 inch before that, and then I divided my bust measurement into 2 like this. So my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8, into 2. That's why I have 4 inches of distance here. And then what I'm going to do is just to mark 1 inch, half an inch on here, and half an inch on here, and then I'm going to connect it together. So guys, now that we've drawn out these bodies, now the first thing I'm going to do is to just cut out my armhole first. So I'm going to just cut out my initial armhole, not the armhole of the spaghetti sleeve. I'm going to cut out the main one. As you see, we've cut this out now. So what we are trying to do here is just to draw out our wrap, because this is going to be a wrap top, right? So we are trying, and if you look at it, normally a wrap top, you normally just extend it by 5 inches across the other side. But if you look at this one now on the picture, you see that the wrap top in front extends all the way to the other side, right? So it runs across all the way, like it's going over to the other side. So for that, I think we're going to cut it all the way to this part here. So it's going to fix into the other side seam. So it's going to flap over. So now what you're going to do is, from this, our neckline on this side, what we are going to do is to get first, we're going to come up here about like 2 inches or 2.5 inches here. So I'm going to use 2.5 inches here. and then I'm going to go ahead now from this my neckline. You see, from this line here of my initial neckline, let me open it so you guys can see. From this line of my initial neckline, I'm going to first of all trace out my normal wrap top. So I'm just going to connect it all the way down to this part here. So guys, you see, I'm going to cut this out now. Normally this would be our wrap top. Now, but since we are trying to make a spaghetti sleeve, I'm going to just try to now blend in this line into this here. So I'm going to blend this here, because if you look at this now, this is our normal basic bodice for our wrap top, right? Except sometimes it ends somewhere here. But since this one is like this, I'm going to go ahead now and blend this in this way into this line, and then I'm going to cut out this part, and that's going to be my front bodice. So guys, as you can see, I blended this line in now. So all I have to do is to cut this out following this line here. I'm going to cut it out following that half an inch we came down on the armhole, and then I'm going to follow. Guys, you can still bring down yours even more this way if you want. You can still bring it down, but remember my center line for the V I want is to be 7 inches, so it might be too high. So you can still blend yours in and curve it down even a little bit more, because what you're trying to do here is to replicate the particular jumpsuit, right? But if you look at the picture, you see it wraps into the side, so the seam allowance even from this here is still going to be out here, like that seam allowance from this here is still going to be here. So now that we finish, so we're going to cut 2 of these, one on your red, one on your pattern, plain pattern, and one on the other pattern. So now with this here, we are going to cut out our back bodice. So guys, all I have to do is my back bodice. You see how it is now. I folded that fabric back again like how it was before, my front panel. If I open it up, you see what it looks like. I just folded it back into what it was before. All I have to do for this back panel is, you see my zip allowance here, I just have to mark where my front starts, right, where the armhole exactly starts, and then I'm going to just draw a line across all the way like this, following this length. All I need for the back is just to match the length of the front. So I'm just going to draw a line across this way. So guys, this is my pattern here. So if I remove it now, you see what my back pattern looks like. So you see, this is normally your back bodice, but you see my dart is going to cut off here. This is my zip allowance here. So all I have to do is to cut this across this way, and that's going to be my back bodice. So my dart is the same as the front, 4 inches away from here, which is my nipple to nipple measurement into 2, half an inch on each side, and then I angled it all the way to the top. Remember, it's going to this is going to reach up to the chest line, but the one in front stops 1 inch before your bust line. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out my back bodice. So guys, this is what mine looks like at the moment. So you see, I've cut out my fabric. You see, I cut out my front and back, one of these, one of the back panel, you see, with the zip, and then one of these, and then the back panel at the back. So you need to cut out one of each side, because that's how you're going to join it. So guys, another thing I want to say is that this is the most important part. Try not to cut the same side of the fabric. Make sure that like you have your full attention, so that you know that, okay, I've cut this side now, this is going to be on one side. Make sure that you're cutting another one that is facing it. Cut it each one separately and put a lot of thought into it, because and one thing that can happen is that you go and cut this one front and then cut this one back. You need to go back and do it again. So if you don't want to waste your fabric and cut it just once, cut. As I was cutting it, I was talking to myself, I know that this one is going on this side, and then the back panel is going to come in and face this side. Then I know that this one here is coming to this side, and then the back panel is going to face this side. So just make sure that you, and then you, when you're done, you pin it. So the next thing you're going to do now is also to trace out your lining, because you're going to be needing lining for this. So I'm going to trace out lining for both the back and the front, and then I'm also going to cut out the strap that I'm going to be needing for this. And then don't forget, you're still going to pick your darts on each side here for the front and also for the back. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead now and show you guys how I'm going to cut my trouser. So guys, before I start cutting my pant, I had to go back again and check and make sure that this side here is going to be the same as the top. You see, my top on this side is going to be this side of my pant, and then I know that my crotch is going to come in here. So if I'm standing like this now and I want this to be on this side, I know that my crotch is going to be here. So I'm going to make sure to place my crotch here. So now I'm going to start cutting the pant. So guys, this is what I did here. So the first line I have 3 lines here. The first line is my waist to my hip. The second line is my waist to my crotch. But this my waist to crotch, I added extra 1 inch to it because I don't want this pant digging in into my body, so I came down by extra 1 inch. You can divide your hip measurement by 4. You can also get it. My hip measurement is 48, divided by 4 is 12, which is also my crotch line, but like I said, I added 1 inch to it, so I have 13 here. So then the next line I have here is my pant length here. So my pant length is 41 plus extra 2 inches here is going to be for my folding of the pant. So now the next thing we are going to do is to come up to this hip line, and then I'm going to divide my hip measurement by 4, and then I'm going to add 1.5 to it for my seam allowance, about 0.75 on this side, 0.75 on this side to sew it in. I don't want to use 1 inch. If you want, you can use 1 inch, and then you can make it half an inch on sewing it this side, half an inch on sewing it this side, but I'm going to make mine 1.5. So my hip measurement divided by 4 is going to be 12, plus 1.5 is going to be 13.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. So guys, that measurement I got, which is my hip divided by 4 plus 1.5, I put it on my hip line, put it on my waistline, and then I also my crotch line, and then I also extended it up to my waistline. So now the next thing you're going to do to get your crotch extension of your crotches, you can divide your hip measurement by 4. So my hip is 48, divided by 4 is 12. That 12, divide it again by 4. So that's how, if I divide mine again by 4, it's going to be 3 inches extension here. So, or another thing you can do, instead of doing it that way, is you can insert your thigh, round your thigh measurement, the uppermost part of your thigh, that's the thickest part of your thigh. Divide it into 2, and then insert that measurement on this your crotch line. That can also serve. Like I said, if you want, you can use the thigh measurement divided by 2. If you use that, for me, my thigh is around 31 at the uppermost part, so divided by 2 is going to be 15.5. But if you look here, you see I have almost 17 or so. But remember, there's still 1.5 distance that I added for my seam allowance here, so that's why it's looking like it's more than that. So you can use either of the two methods I'm giving you guys. So you can divide your hip measurement by 4, and then whatever you get, divide it again by 4, and that will be your crotch. Or you can use your thigh measurement divided by 2, and then remember, you're going to still add the extra 1.5 or 1 inch that you left off on this plate. So now that I've done that, I'm going to come in here at this angle by like 1 inch or so here, and then I'm going to mark my crotch. So this is it here. Mark your crotch this way. So now my pant is ready. So guys, what I have to do now is to take this measurement that I have here, this 17 inches that I have this distance here. I'm going to insert it at the lower part of my pants, 17 inches all the way down, and then I'm going to connect this line to this top part here. So insert my waist measurement first before darting it. My waist, like I said before, is 34. Divided by 2 is going to be divided by 4 is going to be about 8.5, which I'm going to mark here. So you're going to add 1.5, the same 1.5 of seam allowance, and then remember, you still need your 1 inch of darting. So in total, I'm adding 2.5 here. So that's going to be 8.5 plus 2.5. That's going to be about 11 inches. So guys, let me repeat it again. My hip measurement divided by 4 is going to be 8.5 plus 1.5 inches of seam allowance, and then plus 1 inch of darting. So you're going to connect it to your hip, and then the next thing you're going to do is to put in your dart. Remember here that we still left seam allowance here. So if you put in your dart all the way to this point, when you take away that seam allowance that you're supposed to use to join this crotch part, is going to pull your dart even closer. So to maintain where your dart is going to be, subtract that seam allowance. If it's 0.5 that is going to be your seam allowance, remove it. Or if it's 0.05, you remove it, and then you're going to divide your nipple to nipple measurement into 2, add it here, and then mark what you have here. For me, that's 4. I've marked it here, and then you're going to connect the line down and stop 2 inches before your hip line. So for me, that's at 8. Mark half an inch on each side, and then connect it. This is going to be your dart for the front. So at this point now, you can go ahead, cut out your pants here, cut this out all the way, and then we'll trace the back. So guys, now to cut my back panel, you see this one here, I'm going to first cut out the other side of it, and as you can see how I'm cutting it is the wrong side is facing the wrong side, so that way I know that this is one leg of my pant. So using this one leg, then I can trace the one that is going to be in Akara. Guys, this is very tricky. You have to pay attention. I almost made mistake myself, so try to be sure of the side you're cutting so that you don't make mistake and waste your fabric. So now to cut the back panel, we are cutting this in single. We are not using akara. So this one here, I cut only single piece of my front. With this here, I'm going to cut the back panel, which is just a single piece of it is what I'm cutting. So the back panel now, all we have to do is using this front here, you're going to extend your crotch by 3 inches. If you're more on the bigger side, use 3. If you're more on the smaller sides or medium size, you can get away with just about 2 inches or 2.5. So after that, now the next thing you're going to do is on this your waistline, I'm going to extend this line on like a straight line this way. Just mark it straight this way, and then you're going to come in here by 2 inches here. This is going to be my new back waist. So come in 2 inches from your waistline in front. That's this your front, mark 2 inches in here, and then that 2 inches you've subtracted, you're going to add it back again on this line. This is going to be from my back panel. Yeah, so now that I've marked that here, what I'm going to do next is just measure out the waist that I have here on my front panel, which is this here. Measure out the waist I have here, which for me is about 11.5. I'm going to blend that 11.5 here. So, but the length that you're going to have here, because remember the back of your pant is supposed to be longer than the front. The length I have here is basically the crotch measurement from my front pattern, which is 3 inches, and then I have 3 inches here. Then I'm going to just connect this to this here. So you see, so guys, I have almost the same thing. The 2 inches I took away from here, I added back here. So, and then I connected out my crotch here to this point here. So now from this here, I'm going to just come down here and add 1.5 to it. And then all the way, I'm going to add 1.5 to the side of the pant to the end. So guys, after this 1.5 extension all the way down, the next thing I'm going to do now is from my waist here, I'm going to just mark my knee length, my knee, which is not like 20. Some people is 19, some people is 21. And then I'm going to blend in this my back crotch into this line like this. If you want, I'm just going to blend it like this. If you want, you can still leave yours. If you want your pants very wide, you can still use this crotch line and go down straight. But I don't want mine that wide, so that's why I'm blending it into this line like this. I'm going to blend it this way. And then the next thing you're going to do is just to connect this crotch to this point here. So now I'm going to connect it. So guys, all we have to do now is to cut out our pant. So I'm going to cut out the back panel now. So guys, because this is going to have a zip at the back, I'm going to go ahead and mark it down 1.5 for the zip. So you're going to go up all the way. Depending on the length of your zip, you're going to mark 1.5 inches all the way from here. And then you're going to extend it. So this is going to be for my zip. So you're going to mark that. So this is going to be the pattern I'm going to use for my zip, the excess for your zip. So I'm going to cut all the way from here now into this part and then down. If your zip can go further, you can go further all the way to the hip line, depending on the length of your zip. Have a dart at the back, so from this point to this point, just mark your breast point again and mark half an inch on each side. That's going to be my dart. My dart at the back is about 6 or 5 inches. So now we are going to go ahead and start joining it. So all I have to do with my front pattern, I trace the back. So now all I have to do is to join this here, and then I also have my front body. So guys, this is it here. I basically just trace this like I'm going to join it, right? So you see how I folded. So this is the wrong side of my fabric. I make sure that the two right sides are facing each other, so that way I don't confuse myself, right? So the two right sides of the pants are facing each other. So now all I have to do is to go to the sewing machine and close it up, so that when I open it up, I know that, okay, my front pant is done. So now the same thing goes for the back, and then I'm also going to put in my dart. So guys, my pant is done. So you see, I also gave it a dart at the back. This is my zip allowance for the back. So this is basically what my pant looks like at the moment. So now I have to go ahead and join my top. This is what it looks like right now. So I've gone ahead, made my string, and then passed it through like this. So you see, one side of mine is done. I attached it to the back. So you see, this is attached to the back. So this is how I lined it. Basically, I put in my strap in between this way, like this. Just flipped it like this, put in my strap inside of it, and then I sewed it down, right? I just sewed it down this way, and then my strap was inside of it. So when I finished, I just flipped it inside out like this, ironed it down. So now I have to go back in and dart it, the two sides. So once I dart it, and then I'm also going to, you see the back, I'm also going to sew the top part here, and then I'm going to flip it out this way and then dart it. So that's how I got this part. You see, on the top is where I finished it, and then I gave it a dart, and then I joined it to this side. So once I finish this one now, I'm going to also take this one too and then join it to this side. But before I join this side, I'm going to make sure, it depends on the side that is going to be on. I don't know if it's this one, but whichever one that is going to be on top, make sure that you also insert your seam. So if it's going to be like this, the seam is going to go inside like this. So this my seam, I'm going to attach it this way. So you see, I'm going to just attach it with 1/2 inch on this side, because remember, it's supposed to reach to the end. I'm going to join it this way. And then this one that is going to overlap this way, when it gets to this side, I'm also going to join it with the back seam and cover it up like this. So it's going to be holding each other. So it's going to, this one inside is going to extend to this one is going to extend to this, with 1 inch seam allowance that is going to come at the side. So guys, this is it here. As you can see, this seam is inside here. There's a dart here, there's a dart here. Even the one on the inside also extends to this side. So you see, that's how you're going to join it. The two of them are joined together this way. I'm going to take this here, and I like to leave mine so that I can be able to adjust it. So when I wear it, I'm going to tuck it down. But if you know the exact measurement you need, just tuck it in like how you tuck this in when you're sewing it for the back. So after that, now I'm going to go ahead and join this here. This is it here. I'm going to go ahead and join these two together. But then after joining it, you're also going to make a belt, because if you look at the waist, you see that she's tying a belt. So you're going to make a belt using the Akara fabric, right? If you want, you can use the other color, but I'm trying to replicate exactly the picture. So I'm going to use the Akara fabric to make a belt. Just cut about like 5 inches of width and then sew it, bring it inside out and iron it. So that's going to be your belt. As you can see, she tied her own to the back. So guys, this is it here. The back, there's a zip allowance at the back, there's a zip allowance at the top. So all I have to do is to put my zip going up to the back and then tack down my straps like this, just like this here. So that's basically it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Bye.